Welcome everyone to Things Around 8. Dear friends, in this video, we will talk about the arrest warrants issued by the International Criminal Court against Sergei Shoigu, former Russian defense minister, and Valery Gerasimov, chief of the Russian General Staff, for alleged war crimes in Ukraine. But what does this mean in practice? And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and click on the notification bell so you don't miss any news. On Tuesday, June 25th, the ICC, the acronym for the International Criminal Court, issued two new international arrest warrants in the Netherlands, one against Sergei Shoigu, former Russian defense minister, and another against Valery Grasimov, chief of the Russian General Staff, the highest military authority in Russia, increasing to 8 the number of arrest warrants issued by the ICC against Russian politicians and military personnel for alleged war crimes committed in Ukraine. With emphasis, of course, on Vladimir Putin himself, accused of deporting thousands of Ukrainian children to Russia. According to the court's indictment, Shoigu and Grasimov are suspected of committing war crimes against humanity by launching attacks specifically targeting civilian targets, such as hospitals and infrastructure linked to the supply of electricity and heating. But who are Shoigu and Gerasimov? And what, in practice, does this arrest warrant mean? Sergei Shoigu began to stand out in Russian public life as early as 1991, the year the Soviet Union collapsed. He was appointed by President Boris Yeltsin to the post of Minister of Emergency Situations, a post he held for 21 years, leaving in 2012 to briefly take on the role of governor of the Moscow Oblast, finally assuming the role of Minister of Defense in November of that year. Shoigu and Putin have had a relationship of recognized friendship for more than 2.5 decades. But with the conflict in Ukraine dragging on, with casualties mounting, and with Russia failing to break through Ukraine's lines, Putin was forced to fire his friend from Russia's most important ministry, replacing him with an economist tasked with militarizing the Russian economy for a long, costly, and seemingly endless war, with Shoigu being given a bureaucratic and unimportant position on the Russian Security Council. As for the alleged war crimes, although Shoigu, who is not a military man, did not actively participate in the development of strategies for attacking Ukraine, it is undeniable that he, as defense minister, played a prominent role in the broader context of the Russian invasion, and his voice was heard during the decision-making process to attack civilian targets and infrastructure. Regarding Valery Gerasimov, as chief of the Russian General Staff, he is, obviously, a career military man, with proven military experience in several conflicts, notably the wars in Chechnya in the 1990s, the Russian invasion of Georgia in 2008, and the Russian intervention in Syria, which began in 2014. In January 2023, he received from Putin the centralized command of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. This means that all strategies and the definition of the types of targets to be hit in Ukraine have passed and continue to pass directly through his hands before being transformed into concrete actions on the battlefield. In other words, when hospitals, buildings, homes and power and heating plants in Ukrainian cities are hit and destroyed, it is because Gerasimov, as chief of the General Staff and commander of the invasion, authorized this to be done. But what does it mean in practice that the Russian military leadership, including Supreme Leader Vladimir Putin, have received international arrest warrants? In practice, it actually means very little, with these warrants only limiting the international travel of those wanted, who are thus prevented from traveling to any of the 124 countries that are signatories to the Rome Statute. However, since none of Russia's major allies are party to this statute, especially Iran, China and North Korea, in practice, all of them will be able to continue to move freely through the countries that really interest Russia at this time. In terms of propaganda, however, Ukraine will use these warrants to highlight the criminal aspect of the Russian invasion, just as it did when Putin received his warrant from the ICC in 2023. But, as I said, in practical terms, as long as Shoigu, Gerasimov, and of course, Vladimir Putin do not visit countries that are parties to the court, nothing particularly untoward will happen to them. And if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any news.